The first 7 seconds of your speech decides if you're worth listening to. Not 7 minutes, not your second point, 7 seconds. That's going to decide whether your audience is going to be listening to you or they're going to be checking their phone and thinking, okay, he's not worth really listening to. And we waste the beginning of our speeches with likes, with ums, with so's, with filler words instead of getting to the meat of what we're talking about. So we're going to focus on what do you need to do to open the speech with strength, with power, with clarity, and with focus. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to own those first few seconds. You start off with this. Let me tell you about a time that I got this right. So I went in there, I was at a speaker conference, and I was being tasked to do a keynote speech. Now, immediately, I know what I've been told to do. I know the information that I've been given. I have the learner persona of who I have been called to serve. Plus, I know some of the students that are there. You know, you got some middle schoolers, some high schoolers. They're a little heebie-jeebie about the whole thing, but hey, I think we can get this in. So I take the stage, the nerves start to erupt. They start to move through me because just because I do this for a living doesn't mean this ever goes away. You just become better at being able to do it scared. I take the stage, everyone is so quiet they can hear a pin drop. And I utter my first sentence. A few years ago, I died. Immediately, heads turn. Any person that was already distracted is like at attention focused. And from then on, the conversation started. 50 minutes later, everyone is either crying, on their feet, punching the air, about to just go into hysterics. And I get off the stage like, wow, that hit different. Now, if we wrap this up into one statement of what really went on is you have to have mastery of the room. You have to have command of the stage. And we got to really break down what exactly this looks like from a speech perspective. So, you want to make sure that you set the scene. You want to make sure that you have your moment. And then you want to break this down. So, think about this, right? I don't exactly know, like I can't like put in a box why these things work because every stage is different. Every community is different. Every client is different. However, the one thing I can tell you is a repeatable framework of starting with the hook that gets people hooked. A story that really pours into people so that they understand, wow, this is real. And then having practical frameworks so that you can deliver on that ROI. You can talk about their pain points and you can address them about why you are that expert. You are the person that's efficient. You are the one that gets it done. And then ending with A, looping it back to the story. I understand, introduce, and then when you end, rehooking them, and with that final sticky statement that stays with them, then you're good. So I'm gonna talk to you about Jay, right? So Jay was a junior, smart kid, right? He was smart. He had all the things. He took AP Calc, he took AP Bio, and he also took AP English Lang, but he dropped out of that one. I'm still kind of mad at him about that one, but it's okay. Not his teacher, just his coach. So you think about this, right? Every single time that Jay had to present, every single time that Jay had to, focus at an assembly, a club meeting, even when he had to talk to his friends, like in a way where like they had to listen to him, not just idle chit chat. He froze. He froze. And when he did talk, he'll be like, yo, what's good? My name is Jay. Yeah. Bro, we already know your name is Jay. I don't know why you're stuttering on that. I don't know why you're feeling some type of way about you saying your name. That's weird. But we start to really pick apart that because he was efficient, he was skilled, he had the right grades, he had the right metrics. On paper, he looks nice, but in action, what are we talking about? So, he lost the room. He lost the room because he had their attention and he let the command go, the influence go because he didn't look like he knew what he was talking about. Even though he only was introducing himself, he wasn't even confident of that. And shout out Jay, I love him to death. I love him. But I was like, bro, sir, kiddo, I just don't think we're on the same page about what you need to do. Because this is the first step to a college conversation. This is the first step to a job interview conversation. This is the first step for you to be asking for raises, for you to be trying to build systems. This is the first step. And if we can't get here with your name, we're doomed. We can't do that. So we have to talk about, there are 5 ways that you can open. There are 5 ways that you can open. You shouldn't start with your name. So Jay, bump that. But you shouldn't start with your name. What should you start with? The opens are the question. Does anyone like pizza? How many people feel like they are the only one who understands? Is it crazy to think that maybe, just maybe, it isn't about you? Like a question, when you start that way, it elicits an emotion, a response from the audience where they feel like they got to answer, even though they won't because you're the one on stage with the mic and they don't have that. But like, they want to respond. Sometimes they do the hands up. Sometimes they do that. But the opening is what works. Now, make sure that you have a strong question. But you need to ask that question. And make sure that the question is a yes or no. Not one that's very allegorical, lengthy. Something that makes them think, okay, copy. Because then you're going to actually deliver on what you meant by that question. So that's that on the first one, right? Second thing is you need a bold statement. Bold statement, right? When I start off with saying a few years ago I died, it's like, okay, what? In the next 60 minutes, I'm going to change your life in such a way where you will never be the same. That's a promise, okay? Copy it. I hope you fall in line and talk about that. Or May 2021 was a date that will forever live in infamy in my life. And it may be the answer to changing yours. Okay, now you have buy-in because you have the audience hooked. So now you get to talk about what that is. What happened on May 2021? I don't know. But they're about to tell me. So that's the second thing. The third thing, the story drop. So if you start off with being able to shift your body and then going into the story, like straight up. So I was backstage and I was just like doing this, that. And you make eye contact with people so that they're in on the story. Like, you understand what I'm talking, right? You get it. Like, I was just trying to do this and I got a chicken teriyaki bowl because we know chicken teriyaki bowls, those hit different. But as I was going, I realized that person doesn't like teriyaki. Can you believe that? So the story becomes, okay, how am I speaking? How am I narrating in a way that where like the audience is in on it? Like they feel like, oh, I'm a part of this. That's what you want to hook in with. Like, I didn't tell you who I am. I didn't tell you what the speech was about. I didn't give you context, but you're in it. I didn't give you any semantics, but you're in it. I didn't do anything more but simply hook you in, and then later we could talk about all the fancy schmancy stuff like my name. But you don't even know my name yet. Because the goal is you will be impacted. Even if you don't know it, you're going to learn. You're going to be impacted. You're going to feel like, wow, I got a lot out of this. Because the goal is the ROI. The goal is the change. So make sure that you really set this. Again, we talked question. We talked bold statement. We talked story drop. We're talking next the stat or fact. Stat or fact. To begin, you say, according to a recent study, that gives you credibility. According to a recent study, 75% of people experience some form of public speaking anxiety. 3/4 of the planet experience public speaking anxiety. Bonus points. If you want to, you can use numbers that can be much more focused. Shout out Jessica Lundy. When I was working with her on the keynote, one of the things that she said is instead of saying you died for 11 minutes, say 660 seconds. And just ominously start with that, like 660 seconds. And then going from there. So using that data, that study, you can say 75% of people, or you could say 6 billion individuals, 6 billion people on the planet are anxious when they talk. By the end of the seminar, you will not be one of them. That's promise. We start talking about this and we go in. So again, when you use a stat, your job is to make the numbers feel like something. So let it be like a weighty thing. You know those titles, those statements that are just like, okay, I'm interested. You make a big claim because of your story. You make a big claim because of your statement. You make a big claim because of your stats, your data, whatever you have. I'm interested. So think about what brings people in. So we talked about that. That's 4 story. And the 5th one is the pause. The pause may very well be the most powerful because you can say a statement and let it do its work. You don't need to explain yourself yet. Once you have a mastery of time, once you have a mastery of your pausing, once you have a mastery of like how you're going to speak, you're golden. Example, whenever I say a few years ago I died, I let it breathe. Now, sometimes the kids, I had a couple of kids today when I was presenting at a school, they're just like, liar! That don't make sense! Impossible! Just hold it. Then restate it. Re-emphasize. Eye contact. Look at somebody. And then saying what you mean. Explain a little bit more, but you're teasing. You're not actually giving it all the way. That is only going to be accomplished if you know how to master your time. You know how to use your pauses properly. So that's something that I feel like is going to be very important. So we talked about all of these lovely things, right? Now, when we think about all of this stuff together, going back to Jay, right? Shout out Jay. He could have chosen any of these things. And I told him, you have all of these options. You could talk story. You can be able to use data. You can be able, like, you can do a question. Like, you can use any of these things. So, Jay decided to lock in on the question. Kind of crazy because he was talking about Big Nigga Jesus, but we were in the Bronx, so it's all good, right? But the way he said it, we were able to craft a specific statement. And you realize he had 5 options. And you can change them all the time. But he has 5 options, and he knows exactly how to pull people in and get them focused. So that's going to be very important. And he doesn't need to use all 5. He just use one of them. But as I close, this is what I want you to do. In the comments, tell me, what's one of these 5 openings you're going to try first? Because faith without work is dead. An idea without implementation is useless. So I just hope that you listen to me on this. Which of the 5 are you going to use when it comes to opening your speech? Drop it in the chat. And if you want to go deeper, next week, we're going to talk about voice doing its work when you speak. Think about tonality. It's not your words, but your actual voice. Thinking about, your rhythm, thinking about your pitch, because that's what's very effective. And something that you're going to be very floored to hear is that only 7% of your actual spoken words are impactful. The other 93 has nothing to do with what you say.